Yes, indeed. We are coming to you live from Hotel Africana. My name is Romeo Busiku. This is NTV People's Parliament. We are here to talk about girls with disabilities, persons with disabilities in general, the challenges the young girls face when it comes to access to sexual reproductive health and services, education, health, technology, all the obstacles that they've been facing before the COVID-19 pandemic, the pre-existing problems, and all the other issues we are going to be highlighting here on the NTV People's Parliament. Let's kick off with Shamim Nampije, who is going to talk to us about the challenges that persons with disabilities were grappling with before the COVID-19 pandemic, and the challenges that have continued to affect persons with disabilities, especially the young girls, after we lifted the lockdown. That is post-COVID-19 challenges in that regard. Shamim, please take over. I don't really want to preempt your talking points.
Thank you so much, Honorable Speaker, and our esteemed members of Parliament in the room. When the COVID-19 pandemic struck, education, health, access, employment, all shifted to the online environment. But this shift served to increase the socioeconomic isolation that women and girls with disabilities are predisposed to. Education through the digital environment is a barrier for students with disabilities, as majority of their parents who shoulder the entire cost of education, save for tuition, cannot afford the necessary ICT tools and devices due to their cost and difficulty in use for both the parents, the teachers, and the students. The pandemic, when it struck, it cemented the concept of hybrid working. Like most of us here, we work from home sometimes, but this is through the online environment. So when the pandemic hit, most persons with disabilities, especially the women, they lost their employment. They were the first to be let go of because of their disability-related costs to employment. So the fact that they couldn't even afford to buy these gadgets as the pandemic dictated, they had nothing to do but suffer income insecurity as well as unemployment in a time that was really difficult for all of us. Other citizens were able to access health services and justice through the online environment. Women and girls with disabilities were left behind because of their lack of access and unawareness of digital services. The dissemination of information in audiovisual forms for persons with disabilities is still a barrier. Television stations only provide sign language during the national news broadcasts. How about those other programs?
So you feel like even other programs should have sign language?
Every other program on TV should have sign language because we're not just interested in the news.
Indeed.
The built environment, it continues to prevent access to education, employment, health, justice, and financial services for most of us. The rate of urbanization in Uganda is growing rapidly, yet schools, hospitals, public spaces are given certification to operate without any regard for universal accessibility. Uganda has a fertile policy environment that would promote access to equal opportunities for women and girls with disabilities. But one wonders why women and girls with disabilities still live on the margins of poverty. Thank you, everyone. I submit.
2.5 million plus children have disabilities and 1,055,000, yes. Those are boys, and it's only 900,000 girls. So I believe even the boys are affected just as much as the girls are. For Ms. Susan Achiro.
The Right Honorable Speaker.
Opportunities to employment are very few. They are very few, and we are underrepresented. Government tried to address this issue of employment for people with disabilities. We have employment quotas, but implementation has been a challenge. The good thing it is in the law for People with Disabilities Act 2019. So we await to see the implementation of this law. Mr. Speaker, sir, people with disabilities have challenges. As Shamim highlighted, the biggest challenges is how to use the ICT materials, the gadgets like a phone and the laptops. For example, the laptops, someone with a visual impairment, the software to be used like the JAWS, it is a challenge. Few of them know how to use. They are online jobs, but accessing them is a challenge. Thank you so much. I present.
And thank you so much, Ms. Susan Achiro. And on the challenges affecting access to education, we have Mr. Kamia Julius.
There is a tendency among children with disability and possibly up to adulthood, because of their upbringing, because of our upbringing, not to have self-confidence, to be in self-denial, self-pity, and expecting possibly to be sympathized with. And that starts with how you've been brought up in the home. So that problem manifests in the child, as I have said, but it is a result of how the family has reacted to the disability.
And the community.
And the community. So if the family and the community feel that this child is a good for nothing, and they hide them away, they do not give them opportunity to participate in home and community activities, they do not do activities of daily living, they cannot wash, bathe themselves, they do not play with the other children, those are the repercussions. And those are going to affect the child even when they go to school. Our communities have very impassable roads. Think about the current times when it is raining day and night. That becomes a big challenge to commute to school, and to the discomfort of being carried by brothers or sisters to school. Spoken English, which also turns out to be written English, so to speak, is not the same as sign language. You're disadvantaging the learner with hearing impairment if they must pass the English I'm speaking now. So sign language, somebody may be very fluent in sign language, but not very good with the spoken language, and they are likely not to perform very well. Same thing with those who have a visual impairment. The requirement to pass mathematics has been a big problem for decades, and this has not yet been addressed. We have issues like a very limited funding for special needs education, and how we wish government should consider establishing and operationalizing a disability educational fund, because there is very little that goes into special needs education. You just imagine, as a quick example, Honorable Speaker, a parent under universal primary education is required to provide a book and a pen, for example, because the government says that they are meeting the rest of the costs. But the book and pen for a visually impaired learner is going to cost about 3 million. That's what you call the Perkins Brailler, the machine that does for us our notes. Now, that needs special and deliberate investment by government. You can't leave that to a parent.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is Mr. Kamia Julius. Thank you so much. When it comes to access to justice, we have Agnes as a right.
Thank you so much, the Right Honorable Speaker, and the honorable members of Parliament present. I'm called Honorable Agnes Asserite. Right Honorable Speaker, the effectiveness of justice is in hands
of the different support systems. What does this mean? Like, if we have police, if we have the survivors, someone who has undergone issues like of GBV, they meet and they really need support from each other. And the different expertise that is available. For example, the health workers, police, courts, that is the support system. Challenges, the negative cultural practices and beliefs is one of the challenges persons with disabilities are facing. We realize that through culture, they view people with disabilities as a curse. They feel this is like a bad omen. Right, Honorable Speaker, as you are aware, if a person does not have access to information, does not have any knowledge on their rights and the reporting pathways, women and girls with disabilities, this compounds poor access to justice. Yeah, because they don't know. Where do I go? Who do I report to? And how and which laws are protecting me? We don't know. They don't know. Right, Honorable Speaker, as you already know, family members, they do compromise with the perpetrators. Like someone has raped a girl, the girl has been raped, but the family feels like, no, why should he go and report? So they accept and agree to sort out these issues internally. One thing that you must know, as deaf people, some of us have not been to school. We don't know sign language.
Indeed.
That means that they have to use another deaf person, another deaf colleague, then plus a hearing interpreter.
Which is expensive.
Which is expensive. Exactly. You're very right, Right Honorable Speaker. Our courts cannot support, are not supporting us. No facilitation for this interpretation. They also don't know.
You have to secure your own sign language interpreter in a national court?
National court is my own interpreter. Yes, I have to take care of my own sign language interpreter. There is Police Form 3. Police Form 3A, which is used to collect data. And when such a thing like rape happens, they use this form to put data, but this form does not have a position or anything to capture disability data. What does this mean, Right Honorable Speaker? That information, statistics for all those cases of people with disabilities is not captured. Yeah, because of disability, of this form, which doesn't take care of disability information.
Thank you so much, Agnes. We are running out of time, but that is a very, very great submission. You're still watching the People's Parliament. We're coming to you live from Hotel Africana. We are going to go for a very short break. When we do return, we already have Miss Jackie Cherotich ready to acquaint us with the information we need with regards to the challenges hampering access to health for young girls with disabilities. We'll be right back in a jiffy. Welcome back. We are still here at Hotel Africana. This is the NTV People's Parliament. Romeo Busiku is my name. All right. Let's bring in Miss Jackie Cherotich. Access to health, my dear. What are the challenges we are talking about?
Thank you so much, Right Honorable Speaker. Good evening, Honorable Members. My name is Jackie Cherotich. I'm going to talk about 4 key barriers to access to health.
Indeed.
One of them is availability of reproductive health services
Indeed.
and information in the community. We all aware that most of us, girls and women with disabilities, are based and live in rural areas, and you realize that most of the challenges they face is access to some of these services. These health services are not very accessible when it comes to the rural areas. Most times the health center 3s or health centers 2s do not offer meaningful health services. Yeah, and some of them, most times you find that a woman with disability is having challenges in terms of maybe delivery, and they are referred to the referral medical facilities, which most times are expensive for them to reach there. Secondly, the utilization of reproductive health services and information. Most times in the community, some of the women and girls with disabilities are not aware of this information. Most times they are left out because they are not the target population. When a woman with disability goes to a health center, it is on very rare occasions that they have a sign language interpreter. They will explain their problem to the doctor, and the doctor does not understand. Honorable Speaker, a woman goes to a health facility. She has a disability, and some of the necessities that are needed in the hospital, she does not have because she cannot afford. And no one will have mercy on you that, oh, you have a disability and so maybe you cannot afford this. But they will tell you, okay, if you do not have this, then stay back. As Nuodu, we have been able to do creating awareness in the community. We do twin tracking where we are able to work closely with the community, do dialogues with duty bearers. Also hold sensitization meetings where we are able to bring these girls and women with disabilities to interface with the different duty bearers. But Honorable Speaker, you realize that it's not enough. It's not enough, and we are asking the government, the Honorable Speaker, the Honorable members around,
Yes,
to support us in terms of access to health and in terms of creating awareness out there. We also ask the government to also be able to provide or make some of these services very accessible to the different categories of women with disabilities. Thank you very much.
thank you so much to Jackie for that humble submission. All right, we also do have a very, very interesting person. That is Miss Irene Kagwa, Acting Executive Director, Uganda Communications Commission. Kindly you can take over the podium and let us in on some of the projects you've been undertaking as UCC to help persons with disabilities, especially the young girls.
Firstly, on behalf of Uganda Communications Commission, we want to thank Nowudu and NTV for inviting us to be part of this very insightful parliament. I think we need more of this kind across the board to help people understand.
I agree.
And that is one of the strengths that we appreciate about the media industry. And this does not limit to just the media industry. It is audio-visual content.
Perfect.
I want to celebrate first one of my current stars in Uganda, Musa over there. I don't know whether
Mr.
many
Mr.
of you...
Mwambu, you're a celebrity in here, please. You can just stand up. People need to see you.
So he's a
Great
lead
guy.
actor in a movie that says, When You Become Me. And this movie seeks to help people understand
I've seen
the plight
I've seen
of
the
people.
trailer. I literally got goosebumps. 2 seconds. Just
after watching.
Exactly. I was honored to watch the premiere, and I invite all of you to watch it, but all of you to know that you are able to help persons out there. As Uganda Communications Commission, we are very purposeful. We said our vision is an inclusive digital economy. And when we talk about inclusivity, we are talking about persons in every part of the country, persons with the different income levels, persons of the different genders, that's men and women, persons of all ages, and persons also with disabilities being able to participate in the digital economy. We're in a world where now everything has gone digital. I always celebrate how long ago when e-commerce was just starting, we're saying Uganda, we're in trouble because we didn't have plastic money. Debit cards, we were scared of these things. Credit cards, you'd even run away. This was a very good learning process for us because it was easy for us to say, we have a program for persons with disabilities. But the disabilities are different. I will speak here, and the persons who are only visually impaired can hear me. But the persons who have a hearing impediment cannot hear me. Do I know how to sign? My sister shared. The only thing I know how to sign is this. At least that's where I have gotten to now. But I was also impressed to learn that there is actually a national sign language for Uganda, because to us we thought sign language is international. And this is the awareness we need to create. So within the communication sector, what have we done? We said typically the women wake up in the morning, they have to first do work. The men are advantageous. They get up and go, and they can attend the programs, they can sit there the whole day. The madam, Mr. will be saying, the whole day you have been in those things, didn't you know there were things to do at home? So we need to develop programs that accommodate the challenges that the women have. Now, in the case of persons with disabilities, there are other challenges, women plus persons with disabilities. So when we started, we first said a digital skilling for ladies with disabilities. And then we realized those unique aspects. The deaf, the visual, and the physical, they are not the same. We need to have customized training for them. So in the last 3 years, we've already trained 5,000 women across the country in terms of teaching them skills. Honorable Speaker was speaking about the televisions. Yes, there was the complaint that came in about, what about us? We used to have situations where she's signing, but the camera is only on the person talking.
Yes.
It intentionally cuts out the other party because they don't want to occupy the screen with too many things. They are adding other content. The one that actually I enjoyed most was one we take for granted, where the presenter will say, the contact is written across the screen. You can call.
For more information.
So if I'm visually impaired, how do I see that contact?
Yes.
The things we take for granted. So for us, that was also a very interesting learning process. So the law currently talks about news. As Uganda Communications Commission, we went ahead and went beyond news to say also the national events.
Thank you.
That they should be signage of that provided. And we have also included in the requirements audio descriptors. And we recognized, yes, the operators came back saying, but these things are expensive. We cannot afford them at our go. And what we agreed is let us go deliberate in terms of a journey. Let us start and move together to where we can. Finally, I'll also tell you, the telecom operators also have an obligation that in their services, they're supposed to ensure that their services are accessible to persons with disabilities. And they're going to be reporting annually on what they have done in this respect.
Highly exalted that you're still watching the People's Parliament right here at Hotel Africana. Now, our next speaker is Andrew Mubangizi, Commissioner in charge of Disability and Rehabilitation from the Ministry of Health. Glad you could make time to speak to us today. It has not been easy getting you here.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, and all the honorable members in this House. When you hear immunization, when you hear health education, those are avenues Ministry of Health use to promote and prevent disability.
So you're focusing on a preventive health system?
Yes, we have a preventive health system. Now, when a disability has already occurred, then we have to rehabilitate. Remember, there's something which the society must know, or the members, honorable here present. There's also another component called habilitation.
Yes.
For children who are born with a health condition that are threatening to disability, they have not learned certain skills, they have not developed, they have not. So those interventions we give are actually habilitating, because they were never with skills. Now we are introducing them, developing skills for lifelong living. Therefore, in general, our services are a life course as far as disability is concerned, increasing those
Andrew, we've
challenges.
also heard about something to do with forced sterilization of persons with disabilities in Uganda against their own will. Is this true? I'm just hearing it in the corridors.
The answer is it's not true, because as you are aware, Ministry of Health and government, we are governed by Code of Ethics of all medical workers or health workers. And within the laws of Uganda, it's not where, and there is no instruction that sterilize. There's no circular from Minister of Health or from government that they should be sterilized.
Indeed.
If anything, we promote and we promote rights, because we consider all rights fundamental.
But so we have some people in society who do not believe that women with disabilities have a right to family and children, especially the health workers. You go to a hospital and they're like, oh, who impregnated you? You also get involved in such. Are you putting in place like retooling of these health workers to understand that persons with disabilities are also human?
Let me first state, the answer is no. We are not, it's not happening, and if it happens on a personal level, and we are not aware.
Personal level.
And here we say, if there is any such information, please forward it.
Indeed.
Then we shall follow it up.
I have forwarded it,
Yes.
so you can take it from
it's
there.
It's not verbal, it has to be
Yes.
documented. If it is to do with the women with disabilities and girls, we are open to team up with you in that in our routine support, supervision, sensitization, you are on board in that we can make things change for the better. And what we are going to do, we actually have already started in two ways. We are now have approved the disability inclusive guidelines for use in all health facilities, and very soon we are going to embark on its dissemination, and that will be our starting point as reference. We again call upon you to be with us as we implement it, as we look for resources, as we look for any possible
Best
support
believe, Andrew,
that we
during the
can be
implementation
in
phase,
a
we are
better
going to
service.
be there to monitor as NTV Uganda. Every step that you take, we are going to be there. Indeed. Mr. Musa.
Thank you very, very much, Right Honorable Speaker.
Yes.
Right Honorable Speaker, I come smiling because at least my voice will be heard. Right Honorable Speaker, I've come with this stick, and it's called a white cane. Right Honorable Speaker, while at Wandegea with a colleague who has a visual impairment as well, he had just acquired his white cane at 100,000 shillings painfully. And as we were trying to cross the road, he put it across and he went back with pieces. He did it like this, and he went back with pieces. Right Honorable Speaker, that meant that his eye had gone. Right Honorable Speaker and honorable colleagues, allow me to use this house, August House, and call upon the public, the motorists, that when you see this stick, allow me to pass. Because if you break it, you've broken my eye. And Right Honorable Speaker, I am glad that one of the very good Afandes, and that is Afande Farida Nampima, is always updating people on safety measures. Put on helmets, put on seat belts. I would be so happy to hear on the Monday press brief her speaking about the white cane, the wheelchair, the crutches, among others. Right Honorable Speaker, that is a call to action.
Indeed.
Right Honorable Speaker, allow me also to now deliberate on the matter of employment for persons with disabilities, including the young girls. At Right Honorable Speaker, we are not only speaking about formal employment, but we would also then look at the informal employment, where people are self-employed. Right Honorable Speaker, my call and request to this August House and the country at large is to adopt what we call targeted solutions. Right Honorable Speaker, and specifically I would like to speak to the presidential initiative that is looking at skilling so many young girls so that they are self-employed. We are saying let's have a deliberate effort to be targetful and say if we are having 2,000 girls being supported by the president, can we just have a deliberate 100 girls that have a disability to benefit, so that this kind of slot is put across and not taken up? Right Honorable Speaker, that will be so great, because I pick this from so many angles where I hear that we want girls, women to be involved in specific projects and they won't go through unless a certain percentage is picked up.
Mwambo on that one, but my suggestion was we create more presidential skilling initiatives, because even the existing ones can't absorb the number of people who are gracing it. I recently read a report on 1,200 young girls, in fact 1,300, missed out. They didn't join and were not PWDs, meaning there is even no space. We just need to have more of those initiatives built in at least each and every district in the country. This is the People's Parliament, courtesy of NTV. We are coming to you live from Up Hotel Africana. Let's take a break, return shortly. Stick around, don't go too far. Welcome back. Glad you're still with us at the People's Parliament, coming to you live from Hotel Africana. My name is Romeo Busiku. Now, next segment, we are going to be getting the recommendations. But even though I haven't mentioned your name and you feel like you really have something to say, I want to hear it.
I'll go straight forward.
Yes.
To first of all appreciate Nuwode and NTV for the opportunity to sensitize and also remind us and hold us accountable on what we do. As National Planning Authority, we emphasize planning.
Yes.
And what is not planned for is not included, and therefore it is not counted. Once you miss planning for persons with disability, therefore the other stages we are going to miss out, including them. So for us, our key issue here is planning. And the National Planning Authority developed guidelines that guide ministries, departments, local governments on how to include disability issues in their plans and budgets, but also while implementing and monitoring and evaluation.
Work hand in hand with
Yes, we work hand in hand with these agencies, and we mostly emphasize that let's use the disability inclusion planning guidelines that are in place. As government, we realize that we know that there are challenges that are still existing, but there are some small steps some small interventions that have been put in place.
very great interventions. We
Yes.
agree. You've done very great work.
Yes, we have
Indeed.
put
We're just looking at
interventions.
how best you can do better, especially for the PWDs?
Yes, it is work in progress. I would say it is work in progress. We have started the journey, and we are going to be there. Thank you so much.
And thank you so much to Asio from the NPA. Let's also bring in Hudson from the National Building Review Board. I wanted to ask Asio the issue of buildings not having ramps. Some hotels do not have ramps for persons with disabilities, but that is your docket as the National Building Review Board.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Yes.
98%
Yeah.
of all buildings in our country, especially the cities that have been surveyed, are inaccessible. 98%.
98%.
98%. So, and then according to the report by Gender as well, 2020, there is high prevalence of people, especially the elderly, to get disabled. And if we do not get quickly to get solutions as to how we can make facilities accessible, those of us who are now knocking on the other door, fourth floor and above, we are going to suffer, because that is where the report is
Yes.
taking us. So, and therefore, we need therefore to emphasize aspects of accessibility. These are also in the NDP3 as well, all right? And of course, the aspects of regulation, compliance, and ensure that we improve the standards of building are some of the bottlenecks that NDP3 and of course Vision 2040 is addressing. Then of course, the urban agenda, aspects of equity and ensuring that all spaces are habitable and accessible to all. And the Building Control Act is also emphasizing that developers must comply. And therefore, aspects of accessibility are also must be complied to. Developers must ensure that the buildings are accessible. We have what we call the National Building Code that prescribes accessibility standards, okay? And we want to make sure that developers comply. We have on our website a portal where somebody can actually complain.
So you don't need police or the army.
You don't
you
even
just
need
need
police.
your enforcement team
Ex-
and the media.
Yes.
And we shall help you out.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Hudson. That is Hudson from the National Building Review Board. We also do have the ED for the Uganda National Association for the Deaf. That is my friend Robert Nkwangu.
Thank you for the opportunity. Honorable colleagues, members of parliament, standing here to this noble cause organized by NWODU, it's quite very important to be discussing the plight of young girls and women in this country. Among the challenges that we are having as a country, I will summarize them into two, Right Honorable Speaker. One, being that the sectors, departments are talking about what needs to be done. But I'm thinking it's all about the budget allocation. We're under budgeted as persons with disabilities. And if you look at the education sector, take an example, the budget for special needs education is quite laughable. It's quite a 0.0000, I don't know how many digits to have that. So we literally have nothing.
Indeed.
We look at the tertiary education, equally the same thing. And the special needs children with special needs have been failing. I will employ you members of parliament that recently on TV were complaining after the PLE exams that the majority of our children literally failed academically because of this budgetary allocation. So the teachers that are put under special needs literally don't know anything to do with the teaching people like us. They don't know sign language, and then they expect our children to be examined in the language they have not been taught. So literally there's something that needs to be done, especially with the budgetary allocation with the special needs education. There's a very, very big gap therein. Right, Honourable Speaker, the second point briefly is I'll talk about the decision making. Decision making is where the national cake is shared. Like members always say, amidst us is nothing for us without us. We appreciate government for having representation persons with disabilities in different departments, agencies, and sectors. Wonderful. But the question is, this representation, is it fully representation? Does it have full participation of this? Is the question we need to interest ourselves. Because, Right Honourable Speaker, The schools for the deaf, take an example, they have 15 board members. And out of the 15, only 2 are deaf persons. The rest of the 13 are hearing persons. Then what is funny is that all the 13 literally don't understand sign language. They don't know anything to do with the A, B, C, D alphabet up to Z, the simple basics.
Wow.
Right, Honorable Speaker. They don't know anything about that. And yet they're sitting on the boards of schools for the deaf, and this has been happening for over the years.
As we wrap up in a minute, Robert.
Yeah, thank you, Honorable Speaker. And wrapping up, the recommendation, right, Honorable Speaker and members of Parliament around 2 things. One, increased budget allocation for persons with disabilities and their programs. And secondly, to ensure that there is meaningful representation and participation at the decision-making table. I so submit.
Thank you so much. You have a point of information, but you also had your own submission. Intertwining.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Mine, I'm speaking on the side of technology. And really, my major submission is a call to action. We have that policy, ICT policy for persons with disabilities, in draft form. I think this should be passed. It's an initiative by Minister of ICT, and it was a well-drafted policy. And we think it should be passed so that we really enjoy technology more. You know, technology can be a very good includer for people with disabilities. But again, if not the right type, if not used properly, it can be a very big excluder for people with disabilities. For example, I see ATM machines with braille buttons, but it remains inaccessible to a person with the visual impairment like me. One last point is just additional information. When Agnes was talking about access to justice,
That's right.
that visual impairment, when we go to court, you find that when you give evidence and you say, I had, the judges will start saying that is hearsay. But how can I say I saw when I did not see? And who tells you that I cannot identify somebody when I just hear?
Yes.
There are people here I know in the room. They have not touched me, but I've heard them and I know they are present. We still have a bit of a challenge around that because of the mindset of our judges, which still need to be sensitized so that they change, and people with visual impairment can adduce evidence in court.
All right, Busua, thank you
with
so
their
much.
with their I had kind of thing. Thank you very much.
All right, we also have a cultural leader from the Nabagereka Foundation, Mr. Mukasa.
The general problem is our societal behavior that needs to be changed. Much as we may do the education, the sensitization within the people with disabilities, the stakeholders, but our society generally needs to be sensitized right from schools such that people start to appreciate disabilities. For instance, in the third world country as Uganda, the means of transport commonly we have is the taxis and these buses, but these buses and transport means have no provisions for people with disabilities, unlike in first developed countries.
Indeed.
And maybe lastly, as we also advance, we need to realize that most of the disabilities, not entirely, are born disabilities. Some people develop disabilities at the age of 60, 70 and beyond. But we need to work collectively. This is a societal and collective effort that we need to push together to fend for this phenomenon and work together to come up with solutions.
All right, let's also talk to, that is Patron Musimenta, Miss Ability. Please come over and talk to us.
Thank you so much, Right Honorable Speaker. The Minister of Transport, the Ministry of Transport, this is a message.
Okay.
Yeah, to the Minister of Transport, the high cost of transport for people with disabilities. And to the Ministry of Health, it is expensive for us to access services when we come to the hospitals. Thank you so much, Nuwodu, for being here, and may the Almighty God bless you. Thank you.
Wow. Peyton, I loved it. Thank you for that humble submission. Let's talk to Esther Chozira, CEO for the National Union for Disabled Persons in Uganda.
I'm happy to be speaking this evening to you in regard to this subject. I want to say, Honorable Speaker, that a lot has been discussed, and I wouldn't want to repeat it.
You can come in the space of recommendations right now and you tell us what we can do better.
I want to say that
or what government can do better.
Persons with disabilities in Uganda are suffering or are struggling with about 3 issues. One of them is compliance by government. The other is policy enforcement. And the third is awareness. So, when I talk about compliance, we have a number of policies and laws that have been put in place that favor persons with disabilities. And in other countries, Kenya, Rwanda, Tanzania, they come here and borrow lessons. They go back home, implement, enforce. And their countries are better places for persons with disabilities. But for us in Uganda, because we lack the enforcement component, that becomes a problem. So one of my recommendations is that government should see how to strengthen the National Council for Persons with Disabilities, because this is one arm that we have that must enforce all the laws and policies that we have. We now need to begin the policing part of it. You are failing to do this. These are the punishments or penalties that you have as an institution. And once we do that, we are going to begin realizing some rights for persons with disabilities.
Indeed. Esther Chozira, she is the CEO for the National Union of Disabled Persons in Uganda. And on my right, I do have Ms. Betty Cheptowek, the Executive Director for Show Abilities Uganda.
First and foremost, honorable members, I would like to appreciate the government of Uganda for giving us the platform as persons with disabilities with all the good laws in our country that are friendly to persons with disabilities. Like the Persons with Disabilities Act 2020, we appreciate this government so much, and other laws that are pro persons with disabilities. But I have one challenge that I would like to present, and which I think that if we are to talk about the leave no one behind, I think the young people with disabilities lack representation in all those levels, from village level to national level. We have a slot, yes, in National Youth Council, and it is just talked about in terms of picking a person to represent the youth at National Council by any umbrella organization, which I think is not giving the young people the platform to meaningfully make decisions and also speak for themselves.
So affirmative action shouldn't be left to political positions and so forth. It should be seen even in other sectors.
Exactly.
I get you. Go ahead.
So I think that's my submission.
Betty
Thank you.
Cheptowek, ED for Show Abilities Uganda. Thank you so much. Let's also bring in the chairperson for Nuwodu, the National Union of Women with Disabilities of Uganda.
Okay, thank you so much, Honorable Speaker.
Indeed.
For that wonderful introduction and very inspiring, and
Indeed.
I'm getting so encouraged.
Indeed.
But allow me to thank all the members present in the House. Thank you so much for your time. All these areas we need to understand as members we are submitting that a lot still needs to be done in terms of accessibility, in terms of affordability, in terms of acceptability, and in terms of adaptability. All this requires a lot so that we are able to see that persons with disabilities are able, or women and girls with disabilities are able to access the different services, especially when we are talking about equal opportunities
Indeed.
in the different sector. And because of this, it also requires a lot of mindset change in terms of how do the duty bearers look at the persons with disabilities in accessing services? How do the communities look at that young girl who is being hidden? How can she be exposed out and know that this person is a resource person who can actually who can contribute to the development of that society, but also the country at large. So we are always talking about inclusion in government, inclusion in the communities. And for this to happen, we need total mindset change. And I'm very grateful that NTV has actually changed so much, and wherever they are, whatever they do, they are so much inclusive.
And
Thank
we pledge
so
to
much.
do more. That is the chairperson for Nuwodu, Ms. Rose Achayo Obol. Last but not least, we do have the chairperson for the National Council of Persons with Disabilities. That is none other than Mr. Yona Waswa.
The Right Honorable Speaker of the People's Parliament. My name is Yona Waswa. I'm the chairperson of National Council for Persons with Disabilities, a government body that is charged by law to monitor the implementation of the Persons with Disabilities Act by both government and non-government actors. Permit me, Right Honorable Speaker and honorable members present, bring to your attention that the government, under the visionary leadership of His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, has demonstrated the will to lift the rights, the lives of persons with disabilities through the development and implementation of various disability targeted programs. Was it Musa? Someone was saying here that we need to have targeted what?
That was Musa Mwambu and Betty Cheptowek.
So the government of Uganda is exactly doing what Honorable Musa Mwambu was saying. We are doing targeted programming. Under the parish development model, each parish will be receiving 100 million Uganda shillings. But out of that 100 million, 10 million is specifically earmarked for persons with disabilities.
In each parish, out of the 13,000. That is amazing. 10 million for PWDs.
Yes. And I've been, my technical person just helped me to add it up.
Yeah.
So we have close to 130 billion every year.
Ring-fenced for my PWDs.
Exactly.
You know, you could be there angry that government is doing nothing, when ideally there is something being done. But when there is no information, we wouldn't blame you, you wouldn't know about it. That's why we are here.
So we also have a pillar of mindset change. And under mindset change, and this is being led by our Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development, the government is trying to do what we are doing here, to change the minds of each and every Ugandan to think inclusively.
If you want to change the mind of each and every Ugandan, you need to start by pouring money into the People's Parliament. We are going to do mindset change.
And because you have said that...
If I do not see money from your ministry, then I just know this was all talk.
And let me now...
What better way to change the mindsets of the people than the People's Parliament?
Exactly.
If I don't see you, then you lied.
Right, Honorable Speaker, permit me use this, grant me latitude to thank Nuwodu, NTV and Friends of Goodwill who have enabled this to happen. And as government, we encourage this kind of parliaments to continue. But I also wanted
take the People's Parliament to all the districts. Who will go?
Exactly.
You shouldn't think about it. We are.
We will encourage more of these barazas.
Can you help us get assurance that from today henceforth, at least from your docket, there will be enforcement of the policies and laws that you have in place?
Right, Honorable Speaker. The People's Parliament is a widely watched program. I'm sure each one charged with the enforcement of these laws is listening and watching us. And the change will be there.
Indeed.
I can guarantee you.
Indeed.
But very important, I have to tell you that the government has continued to translate the constitution into Braille. And by December, Uganda was the 13th country in the world to have its constitution
in Braille.
Translated or transcribed into Braille.
And on that note, I'll let you go, Mr. Yona. Indeed, thank you so much. Well, Yona Waswa is the chairperson for the National Council of PWDs, that is a docket under the Ministry of Gender. He has given us some assurance. I'm not going to preempt. A lot has already been said. So indeed, we've come to the end of this edition of the People's Parliament. We've been coming to you live from Hotel Africana, talking about the plight of young girls with disabilities when it comes to access to education, employment, health, justice, and many other issues that have been grappling with. Essentially, access to opportunities. My name is Romeo Busiku, and I was your speaker for this August House. Very, very pleased to have been in your midst. Still we meet again. Have yourselves a blessed night.